from Dhaka, this is Tahmeena Nupur and you are watching BSS News. Today is 8th August 2025. Exactly 1 year ago on this day, the people of Bangladesh were waiting, eyes full of hope, for one moment, the oath of Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus. From 5th August to 8th August last year, Bangladesh stood without a government. Streets echoed with the voices of people who had just brought down an autocratic regime. The air was filled with grief for the martyrs of July, but also with a restless question: who will now take responsibility? Then, like a guardian in a time of uncertainty, Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus stepped forward. He took not just the oath of office, but the responsibility for the economy, for justice, and above all, for the people. The Nobel Laureate-led interim government completed 1 year today. It began its journey on 8 August 2024, following the ousted Sheikh Hasina's long autocratic rule in a mass uprising, a movement that cost countless lives, especially among students. From its first days, this government set out to honor the aspirations of the July martyrs, to rebuild the nation's governance, ensure justice, and protect the freedom that had been denied. During the past 1 year, reforms became the government's driving force. Commissions were formed for electoral reform, police reform, judiciary reform, anti-corruption measures, public administrations, health, mass media, labor rights, and women's affairs. These commissions have already submitted their reports, and many recommendations are now being put into action. On 5th August this year, the interim government marked the first July mass uprising day by presenting the July Declaration, a vision document for the nation. Over 30 political parties were brought to the table to shape the July Declaration. Can you imagine, in Bangladesh, after 15 years, all political parties are under one roof discussing reforms? Everyone's opinion is important and is considered. And now, the July Charter, a blueprint for a future where no authoritarian regime can ever return. Work on the July Charter, based on broad political consensus, is now in its final stage. For 15 long years, the people of Bangladesh were denied the most basic democratic right, the right to vote. The very act of voting had become dangerous, criminalized, stripping of meaning. But from the very first day, the interim government made a solemn promise. This time, the people will vote, and they will vote freely, fearlessly, and with dignity. The election will not be rushed. It will come only after the necessary reforms are in place. Staying true to that promise, Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus during the July Declaration announced that the next national election will be held in February 2026, before the holy month of Ramadan. In his televised address on 5th August, he made it official. The very next day, the Chief Advisor's Office sent a formal request to the Election Commission. Now preparations are underway, and the election schedule is expected in the first half of December. But rebuilding democracy is about more than just casting a vote. It's about safeguarding that vote and the society around it. That's why, alongside the electoral roadmap, the government launched a historic democratic renewal. The judiciary has been freed from political interferences. Judges are now appointed on merit. The police force has been modernized. Body cams, transparent interrogations room, and United Nations standards protocols for protest handling are now in place. New legal safeguards guarantee a maximum 12-hour notification period after arrest, access to lawyers, and mandatory medical checks, ending years of arbitrary detention and abuse. Now let's talk about the economic stability. When the interim government took office, it faced severe economic challenges. Why wouldn't it? For 15 years, the Awami government had done its best to exploit the country's economy, taking charge of a collapsing system with soaring inflation, laundered money gone overseas, and public trust in tatters was not an easy task. And yet, people placed their faith in the new leadership. The trust only grew when just weeks into office, the government also had to confront devastating floods in the north and south that damaged crops, food supply, and prices. Through swift action, close market monitoring, and cutting out middlemen, essentials were kept stable, even during Ramadan. By June this year, overall inflation had dropped to 8.48%, the lowest in nearly 3 years. Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus has expressed hope that food inflation will fall further to 6% by December. Confidence has also returned to the foreign exchange market. In just 11 months, foreign currency reserves rose from under $20 billion in 2024 to over $31 billion by June 2025. Remittances reached a record $30.33 billion last fiscal year, while exports grew by 8.58%. The taka has strengthened against the dollar for the first time in the years. In July alone, exports jumped 25% year-on-year to $4.77 billion, led by the ready-made garment sector. On 1st August, a major diplomatic win. The United States cut tariff on Bangladesh's goods from 35% to 20%. Importers too are breathing easier. The dollar crisis that crippled the opening of letter of credits in the last regime has been resolved. Today, LCs open without delays, thanks to a stable exchange rate and improved results. And despite paying a record $4 billion in foreign debt servicing in the last 11 months, reserves continue to rise. By IMF standards, net reserves now stand at $25.06 billion, a level that allows both stability and planning. Now let's talk about the trade, investment and global partnership. What did people think would happen? That Bangladesh's global partnership would stall? That the interim government, being transitional, wouldn't have the capacity or credibility to lead on the world stage? But they were wrong. Because this interim government is led by Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus, a global icon with deep international trust. And under his leadership, Bangladesh's foreign policy didn't just survive, it flourished. Dr. Mohammad Yunus's 360-degree diplomacy brought concrete results. Bangladesh successfully negotiated a major win, reducing tariffs from 35% to 20%. Strategic trade talks with the United States helped rebuild investors' confidence, and the results are already visible. Foreign direct investments has more than doubled compared to the previous regime. Major commitments like the Honda Group's $250 million textile projects are now creating tens of thousands of new jobs. Chinese investors too are returning in large numbers. The government has reoriented Bangladesh's foreign policy, moving away from over-dependence on a single country. Instead, it's building a balanced multipolar network, strengthening ties with the United States, China, and the European Union, the Gulf nations. Regionally, diplomacy has been reinvigorated. Bangladesh is now leading efforts to revive SAARC and is actively pursuing ASEAN membership, repositioning itself as a central player in South and Southeast Asia. Let's move to peace, stability, and justice. The first and most urgent challenge was restoring peace and order in the post-uprising situation. Through moral leadership and inclusive governance, the interim government managed to stop the cycle of revenge and bring calm to the streets. Transparent trials of those responsible for the killings during the July uprising are now underway, including 4 major prosecutions and the trial of the former Prime Minister herself. In a landmark move, the government meticulously documented all martyrs and injured protesters, providing nearly 1 billion taka in saving certificates to the families of 775 martyrs and over 1.5 billion taka in aid to more than 13,800 injured citizens during the July mass uprising. The severely wounded were sent abroad for advanced treatment and rehabilitation. To honor this legacy, Ganabhavan is being transformed into the July mass uprising Memorial Museum, while the July Shohid Shriti Foundation has been launched to ensure sustained support for the affected families of July victims. 1 year ago, Bangladesh stood at a crossroads, battered by loss, yet determined to begin again. The interim government under Professor Dr. Mohammad Yunus took up that responsibility, step by step rebuilding trust, reforming institutions and steering the economy towards stability. The journey is far from over, but today, 1 year on, the promise made to the martyrs of July feels alive. In steps taken, in the reforms underway and in the path ahead toward a truly democratic Bangladesh. That's all for today. For more information, visit bssnews.net. Thanks for watching.